A pastoral elegy upon the death of the most noble and valorous knight, Sir Philip Sidney, dedicated to the most beautiful and virtuous lady, the Countess of Essex. Shepherds that wont on pipes of oaten reed, oft times to plaint your lewes concealed smart, and with your piteous lays how learn to breed compassion in a country lass's heart. Hearken ye gentle shepherds to my song, and place my doleful plaint your plaints among. To you alone I sing this mournful verse, the mournfulst verse that a man heard tell to you, whose softened hearts it may impierce. With dolor's dart for death of Astrophel to you I sing, and to none other wight. For well I wot my rhymes benny rudely dight, yet as they been, if any nisser wit shall hap to hear, or coet them to read, think he, that such are for such ones most fit, made not to please the living but the dead. And if in him found pity or a place, let him be moved to pity such a case. A gentle shepherd born in Arcady, of gentlest race that a shepherd bore about the grassy banks of Hmony, did keep his sheep, his little stock and store full carefully he kept them day and night, in fairest fields, and Astrophel he hight, young Astrophel the pride of shepherds' praise, young Astrophel the rustic lasses love far passing all the pastors of his dies, in all that seemly shepherd might be, how in one thing only failing of the best, that he was not so happy as the rest. For from the time that first the nymph his mother him forth did bring, and taught her lambs to feed, a slender swain excelling far each other, in comely shape, like her that did him breed, he grew fast in goodness and in grace, and doubly fair walks both in mind and face, which daily more and more he did augment, with gentle visage and demeanour mild, that all men's hearts with secret ravishment he stole away, and weedingly beguiled, ne spite itself that all good things doth spill, found aught in him that she could say was ill. His sports were fair, his aunts innocent, sweet without sour, and honey without gall, and he himself seemed made for merriment, merrily masking both in bower and hall. There was no pleasure nor delightful play, when Astrophel so was away, for he could pipe and dance, and carol sweet, amongst the shepherds in their shearing feast, as summer's lark that with her song doth greet the dawning day forthcoming from the east. And lays of Lou he also could compose, thrice happy she, whom he to praise did chose. Full many maidens often did him woo, none to vouchsafe amongst his rhymes to name, or make for them as he was wont to do, for her that did his heart with Lou inflame, for which they promised to dight for him, gay chapelets of flowers and guirlands trim, and many a nymph both of the wood and brook. Soon as his oaten pipe began to shrill, both Christ tall wells and shady groves forsook, to hear the charm of his enchanting skill, and brought him presents, flowers if it were prime, or mellow fruit if it were harvest time. But he for none of them did care a whit, yet would gods for them often, sighed sore ne for their gifts worthy of his wit, yet not worthy of the country's store. For one alone he cared, for one he sight, his life's desire, and his dear Lou's delight. Stella the fair, the fairest star in sky, as fair as Venus, or the fairest fair, a fairer star saw Noel Ewing Guy, hotter sharp pointed beams through purest air. Her he did Lou, her he alone did honor, his thoughts, his rhymes, his songs were all her. To her he vowed the sorrows of his dies, on her he spent the riches of his wit, for her he made hymns of immortal praise, of only her he sung, he thought, he writ her, and but her of Lou he deemed, for all the rest but little he esteemed. Ne her with ill words alone he wowed, and verses vain, yet verses are not vain but with brow a deeds to her soul sorrows vowed, and bold he umans her did entertain, for both in deeds and words he nurtured was, both wise and hardy, too hardy alas, in wrestling nimble, and in running swift, in shooting steady, and in swimming strong, well made to strike, to throw, to leap, to lift, and all the sports that shepherds are among. In Uri one he vanquished all, and vanquished was of none besides. In hunting such felicity, or rather infelicity, he found that Uri field and forest far away, he sought, where salliage beasts do most abound. No beast so salliage but he could it kill, no chase so hard, but he therein had skill. Such skill matched with such courage as he had, did prick him forth with proud desire of praise to seek abroad, of Donger not Yudrad, his mistress' name, and his own fame to raise. What need death, peril to be sought abroad, since round about versus, it doth make a bod it fortuned as he, that peerless game in foreign soil pursued far away into a forest wide, and waste he came where store he heard to be of saliage bray so wide a forest and so waste as this, nor famous argent, nor foul Arlo is. There his well-learnt toils and subtile trains, he laid the brutish nation to enwrap so well he wrought with practice and with pains, that he of them great troops did soon entrap full happy man, masweening much, was he, so rich a spoil within his power to see eftsoons all heedless of his dearest hail, full greedily into the herd he thrust to slaughter them, and work their final bale, least that his tolly should of their troops be brust wide wounds amongst them many a one he made, now with his sharp boar spear, now with his blade. His care was all how he them all might kill, that none might scape, so partial unto none ill mind so much to mind another's ill, as to become mindful of his own but pardon that unto the cruel skies, that from himself to them withdrew his eyes so as he ragged amongst that beastly rout, a cruel beast of most accursed brood upon him turned, despire makes cowards stout and with fell tooth accustomed to blood, launched his thigh with so mischievous might, that it both bone and muscles riewed quite. So deadly was the dent and deep the wound, and so huge streams of blood thereout did flow that he endured not the dire full stound, but on the cold dear earth himself did throw the whiles the capshe heard his nets did rend, and hoeing none to let, to wood did wend where were ye this while his shepherd bears, to whom Alua was not so dear as he and ye fair maids the matches of his years, which in his grace did boast you most to be where were ye, when he of you had need, to stop his wounds that wondrously did bleed. A wretched boy the shape of dreary head, and sad in sample of man sudden and full little faileth but thou shalt be dead, vn pitied, vn plain, of foe or friend whilst none is nigh, thine eyelids vp to clothes, and kiss thy lips like faded leaves of rose a sort of shepherd sowing of the chase, as they the forest wronged on a day by fate or fortune came unto the place, whereas the luckless boy yet bleeding lay, and yet would still how bled, had not good hap those shepherds thither led. They stopped his wound, too late to stop it was and in their arma they softly did him rear though, as he wild, unto his Ludlossa, his dearest Lou him dolefully did bear the doleful spear that a man did see, was Astrophel, but dearest unto me she when she saw her Lou in such a plight, with curdled blood and filthy gore deformed that wont to be with flowers and girlands dight, and her dear flowers dearly well adorned her face, the fairest face that I mote see, she likewise did deform like him to be. Her yellow locks that shone so bright and long, as sunny beams in fairest summer's day she fiercely tore, and with outrageous wrong from her red cheeks the roses rent away. And her fair breast the treasury of she spoiled thereof, and filled with annoy his pallid face impictured with death, she bathed oft with tiares and dried oft and with sweet kisses sucked the wasting breath, out of his lips like lilies pale and soft and oft she called to him, who answered not, but only by his looks did tell his thought. The rest of her impatient regret, and piteous moan the which she for him made no tongue can tell, nor any forth can set, but he whose heart like sorrow did innuate at last when pain his vital powers had spent, his wasted life her weary lodge forwent which when she saw, she died not a whit, but after him did make timely haste forth with her ghost out of her corpse did flit, and followed her make like turtle chase to prove that death their hearts cannot die weed, which lewing were in Lou so firmly tied. The gods which all things see, this same beheld, and pitying this pair of lawyers true transform them there lying on the field, into one flower that is both red and blue at first grows red, and then to blue doth fade, like Astrophel, which therein was made and in the midst thereof a star appears, as fairly formed as any star in skies resembling Stella in her freshest years, forth darting beams of beauty from her eyes, and all the day it standeth full of diao, which is the tiares, that from her eyes did flow. That herb of some, starlight is called by name, of others Penthea, though not so well but thou where thou dost find the same. From this day forth do call it Astrophel and when so thou at VP doest take, do pluck it softly for that shepherd's sake hereof when tidings far abroad did passe, the shepherds all which lewed him full dear, and sure full dear of all he lewed was, did thither flock to see what they did hear and when that piteous spectacle they viewed, The same with bitter tiares they all bedewed. And Uri one did make exceeding mona, with inward anguish and great grief oppressed. And Uri one did weep and wail and mona, and means doyas to show his sorrow best, that from that hour since first on grassy green, shepherds kept sheep, was not like morning seen.